and confirm when that's ready. How are you doing? Sorry? Thank you very much. Chair, do you want to start the meeting?
Thank you very much. Welcome to this virtual licensing subcommittee meeting. It is being conducted with members, officers and members of the public at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. There is also the opportunity for the public and the press to listen and view proceedings. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny manager to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you. I've got quite a few announcements to make that will help the meeting run as smoothly as possible. So in regard to the subcommittee consists of 3 voting members with a 4th non-participating member listening to the hearing. In the event that a voting member loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until connection can be restored. If the adjournment exceeds 10 minutes or it is apparent sooner that the absent member cannot reconnect, the 4th member will replace the absent member and become a voting member. That sounds very complicated, but it isn't. If a quorum of 3 members that have been present throughout the hearing is not possible, the hearing will be adjourned. Regarding the applicant, in the event that the applicant loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until a connection can be restored. If it becomes apparent that reconnection is not possible, the hearing will be adjourned to a stated date. In regard to other persons, in the event that an other person that has indicated their wish to speak loses connection, the hearing will adjourn until a connection can be restored. If it becomes apparent that the reconnection will not be possible, the hearing will be adjourned to a stated date. If an other person that has indicated they will not be participating orally in the hearing loses connection, the chair may decide to continue with the hearing. In respect of the decision, the subcommittee will undertake their deliberations in private, and the aim is that they will return to announce their determination on live stream. However, they will not wait for all parties to be connected. A copy of the decision will be forwarded to all parties electronically as soon as practicable and will be able to be viewed on the Council's YouTube recording of this meeting. If, having retired, members believe that the deliberations for a decision will take too long to avoid parties waiting, they may decide not to announce the decision live on the day. If this is the case, an announcement will be made to this effect and the meeting will be closed. The decision will then be announced in writing within 5 working days of the meeting. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Live streaming. The hearing is being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel. If live streaming fails, then the meeting will adjourn for a short period to see if the connection can be re-established. If live streaming cannot recommence in a reasonable period of time, then a decision will be made as to whether the hearing will continue or be adjourned to a stated date. I'm now going to just call everybody's name out. If you can respond to me that you are here and can be heard. So I'll start with the members. It's Mike Rice.
Here.
Daniel Allen.
Here.
Gerald Morris.
Here.
And Sam North, our listening member.
Here.
Officers, Steve Cobb, licensing manager.
Here.
Jasmine Jennings, assistant licensing officer.
Yep, here.
Teresa Campion, legal advisor.
Here.
Myself, Hilary Deneen, Committee Member and Scrutiny Manager. Melanie Stimpson, Democratic Services Manager.
Here.
Matthew Hepburn, Committee Member and Scrutiny Officer.
Here.
Mark Robinson, IT Network and Infrastructure Manager. Okay, in terms of members of the public, we have Dan Simpson, applicant. So if you can press your button to speak, Mr. Simpson.
Yep. Here.
Thank you. Mr. Body, objector.
Here.
Ms. Cannon, objector. Ms. Cannon.
Miss Cannon, if you can accept the request to speak.
Okay, I'm going to move on and come back to Miss Cannon in a minute. Mr. Jordan.
Yep.
And Mr. Weller.
Here.
Okay, so it's just Miss Cannon that we need to confirm can speak.
Are Weller and Jordan objectors?
Yes, sorry, I didn't announce that. Apologies. Miss Sarah Cannon, you need to press your acceptance to speak.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I also say I haven't been included in this? This is Kath Cole.
I do apologise, that's my fault. Thank you. So I can confirm that Kath Cole, also an objector, is here and can speak. Apologies for that.
Thanks, Hilary.
Are you speaking, sir?
So we're just waiting for Sarah Cannon.
And she's an objector as well.
Yes.
I'm here.
Lovely, thank you. Okay. So to continue with the announcements, please be guided by officers and be patient. Things may take longer than usual, as you've discovered, and we must be prepared to be kind to each other if there are technical glitches. We should also be mindful of our individual personal circumstances that we're operating in. Regarding noise interference, please ensure that your mobile phone and any other noise-emitting device is muted. Please activate the mute button on your tablet or your computer when you're not speaking, as otherwise it can be difficult to hear when with all the background noises. If you've activated the camera, please be mindful that others can see you, and don't forget to unmute yourself when you are invited to by the chair to address the meeting. I'd ask that you show respect to each other and don't talk over someone who's already speaking. And I'd also ask that you state your name each time before you speak. Regarding rules of debate, the meeting will follow the hearing procedure as contained within the agenda, and which guides you when as to when you're able to address the subcommittee. If a member or a member of the public wishes to speak, they should use the hand or request to speak symbol, and this will alert a moderator that you wish to speak. The moderator will inform the chair of the names of the speakers, who should wait to be invited by the chair to address the meeting. You will need to be enabled to speak by one of the moderators, and then will need to accept the request to speak that will appear on your screen. Please only press that accept button once. If any of the officers need to address the meeting at any point during the proceedings to aid discussions, please can I ask that you respectfully interject and wait a response before addressing the chair or the panel. The chat facility must not be used for private conversations. The content of the chat will be viewable on the YouTube recording and be retained in perpetuity on that recording. So are there any questions before I hand over to the chair to start the meeting proper?
Hilary, I've got a couple of questions. Sam is shown as a speaker. Dan is shown as a listener. Is it supposed to be around the other way?
No, as in Councillor Allen, are you speaking about, Councillor Morris?
Well, you've got Dan. Sam North is shown as speakers on my screen, and Dan Simpson is shown as a listener. Is that the wrong way around?
No, Councillor Allen has been as a moderator, so he is able to speak as the chair any given moment.
So the public are all down as listeners.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Lastly, is there any hand icon that one can click onto if you want to speak, or isn't that around on this system?
No, Councillor Morris, you're automatically a speaker, therefore you don't need to raise your hand to speak.
Okay.
So if I can just confirm, Councillor Morris, Councillor Rice and the officers and Councillor Allen can all speak without needing to be accepted to speak. They can all speak automatically. Obviously still be guided through the chairman, anything that you do want to say, members.
So if that's all of the questions, then I would like to hand over to the chair of this meeting, Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you very much, Hilary. For all the participants at this meeting, I'd like to say a few words in the interest of transparency. I do confirm that I have no personal association with the applicant. I have in the past liked a Chicken George post on social media, and through my charity work have contacted them once regarding work they were doing in the area. That said, I come to this meeting with an open mind and confirm that those interactions have no bearing on my ability to participate in this meeting and listen to both sides of the application. I'll be making a decision based on the evidence I hear at this meeting. I would now like to hand over, please, to the legal advisor to outline the matters for consideration during the course of the hearing.
I've just unmuted myself. I'm Teresa Campion, legal advisor. If you can all hear me. Yeah, this is a new application for the grant of a premises licence, and the objections can be made on one of the 4 licensing objections. Prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm. There have been no representations from either Hertfordshire's Constabulary, as conditions were agreed with the Constabulary, and they are Appendix B. No representations were made from Environmental Protection, as the conditions were agreed with the applicant, and they are within I think they're Appendix C. The representations from interested parties, from other persons against the application, are in Appendix D, and they appear to be raising concerns over public nuisance and crime and disorder. In considering the application, members need to look at each case on its own merits, in line with the Council's licensing policy, Section 182 guidance and evidence that it hears before the committee. Please note there is an amended application because the applicant was asking for longer hours. I think it's up to about 2:30 in the morning. But the amended application with the agreed conditions with the police and the environmental protection are Appendix E. So Appendix E is what the members of the licensing panel are considering. Please note that late night refreshment isn't a licensable activity under the Licensing Act 2003. So if members were managed to grant the application, they couldn't, they cannot do anything about the premises being open between 5 and 2300 hours, as I said, because that activity between those hours cannot be restricted under the Licensing Act. I believe the licensing officers will consider those points and this issue, and that will be considered as part of, be mentioned by the officers when they present the report. The powers available to the committee are to grant the application as made, grant the application with conditions and or amendments to the licensable activities and or timings. Conditions that also could be added where they're appropriate to make the 4 licensing objectives. refuse the application, and whatever decision is made by the committee, they're required to give detailed reasons for their decision, as with a right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of receipt of the written decision by all parties. If the application is granted, any party can apply for review of the premises licensed based on one of the 4 licensing objectives, and any such application would then have to be referred to another panel hearing of the licensing committee for members to consider further. Those are the points that I'd like to raise. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, if we can then move on to the licensing officers report, please. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Chair. Just bear with me. Good afternoon, everybody. There are no amendments to the published report. However, I do have a number of comments relevant to today's hearing, and it's quite a lengthy speech I have to make, but hopefully it will assist all parties. You would have seen from the report that some of the representations have sections that have been redacted. A summary of the reasoning for the main redactions is included in the officer's report, paragraphs 8.14 to 8.17. I'd like to remind all parties that any redacted information cannot be discussed at today's hearing, and any oral contributions from other persons must relate specifically to relevant areas of their representation or an expansion of those points. New information not included in a written representation cannot be introduced during the hearing. For example, if a representation is dealing solely with matters of public nuisance, the oral presentation cannot then cover other licensing objectives, such as the prevention of crime and disorder. The licensing process should determine how the premises can be managed and what activities, if any, are appropriate in the very narrow consideration of the 4 licensing objectives. Any matters outside of those licensing objectives are not relevant to today's hearing. The main 2 considerations for the subcommittee today are the prevention of crime and disorder. This relates to matters of crime or disorder on or in the vicinity of the premises which fall within the control of the licence holder. Controls should not be placed on the licence holder for patrons beyond the immediate vicinity of the premises, where they have moved beyond his control. However, members may give consideration to my comments in the report on the Cootis case if they believe that issues beyond the premises would become a problem in the town. Also, the prevention of public nuisance. This relates to nuisance coming from or associated with the premises and can cover matters of noise, light, litter or odour. Examples are music or people noise coming from the premises, or noise nuisance directly associated with that premises, such as vehicle or people noise outside the front of the the premises.
Steve, sorry, can I just stop you a moment? We've just lost we've lost Councillor North, so can we just give him a moment to reconnect, please? Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, Chair. Councillor Allen, can you just unmute yourself, please? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry. Yeah.
We can welcome Sam back.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Thank you very much.
No problems. If you'd like to continue, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. As this is a new premises licence application with no evidence of previous licensed usage by the current applicant, the committee should consider the impact or likely impact on the licensing objectives of the proposed activities and timings. Members should be aware that there would be a right to review the licence should one be granted today if problems exist at a later stage. However, if you believe the likelihood of an adverse impact on the licensing objectives would be unreasonable based on the evidence that you hear today, you are entitled to reflect that in your decision. The subcommittee is reminded that its determination today must be based on the specifics of this application and the proposed management team. Whilst representations make reference to previous issues related to this premises, the subcommittee must assess this application, the operating schedule and the oral submissions of the applicant and assess whether it believes this applicant can adequately promote the licensing objectives. The poor management of previous occupants should not be considered as part of your determination today. Representations also make reference to an existing flashpoint of the taxi rank outside the premises and litter and noise associated to other licensed premises. Again, the subcommittee should assess the likely impact of this premises on the licensing objectives and not automatically penalise the applicant for matters outside of his control. That said, if the subcommittee feel that this premises would have an adverse impact on the licensing objectives and that would further escalate existing issues, you would be entitled to reflect that in your decision. During the consultation period, agreement was reached with the Police and Environmental Health, and for the ease of the subcommittee and all parties, the revised application has been summarised at Appendix E, and it's Appendix E that you are considering today. Whilst the subcommittee should have regard to the fact that the revised application has satisfied the responsible authorities, the subcommittee is entitled to make further amendments to timings and conditions if it deems it appropriate to promote the licensing objectives based on the written and oral submissions. If the subcommittee is satisfied that there are no appropriate timings or conditions that will adequately promote the licensing objectives, it is entitled to refuse the application. The subcommittee will have noticed that the original application included Section F, which is recorded music, but made reference to it being background music. To make it clear to all parties, incidental music, such as background music, is not licensable. Therefore, there is no requirement for recorded music on the premises licence, should the subcommittee to be minded to grant the application today. Lastly, I'd just like to expand a little bit on the late night refreshment situation referred to by your legal advisor. The subcommittee will be aware that the revised application includes restricted times of operation for the takeaway aspect of the business that were agreed with the police. Late night refreshment is only licensable between the hours of 2300 and 0500. To make that clear, an applicant that wished to provide late night refreshment without alcohol could operate between 0500 and 2300 hours every day without the need for a premises licence. Therefore, the late night refreshment timings agreed with the police that restrict this activity to 21:30 and 22:30 on certain days within the Appendix E cannot be imposed on the licence should the subcommittee be minded to grant the application. Whilst the premises will have separate takeaway and restaurant areas, the application is based on one single premises. In the same way that a public house can have restricted public opening hours for a pub garden, whilst continuing to operate within the building, different hours that the premises can be open to the public can be applied to the separate takeaway and restaurant areas if the subcommittee deem it appropriate. As an example for that, just to make sure that everybody is fully aware, looking at the proposed opening hours for the takeaway area, if Monday to Wednesday was restricted to 2300 hours as applied for, no persons could be on that part of the premises after 2300 hours. However, late night refreshment could be provided up to 2300 hours as it would not be licensable. Similarly, staying in Appendix E, if Thursday to Saturday was restricted to 23:30 as applied for, no person could be on that premises after 23:30. However, late night refreshment would need to cease at 2300 hours unless otherwise authorised by the licence. I hope I haven't further complicated issues with that advice, and I'm happy to answer any questions either now or at your discretion, Chair.
Thank you very much, Steve. Okay, do we have any questions of fact for the licensing officer from any of the objectors?
I have a question.
Okay, if you can remember to introduce yourself as you speak, please.
Right, District Councillor Gerald Morris. Steve, just to clarify, under the takeaway service operating hours, which are now suggested on page 61, what you're saying is that technically speaking, they don't need a license for that anyway. Is that correct? Even if should we decide to refuse the application?
Steve, you're still muted.
Thank you, Chair. If you was minded to refuse the application, the applicant then wouldn't be able to sell alcohol, because that's obviously part of the application. However, without a premises licence, he would be able to provide late night refreshment up to and including 2300 hours without a licence.
Thank you.
Chair, Mr. Body would like to speak.
I had seen that. If he would like to put his hand up again, I will accept that. Mr. Body, I'm afraid that I'll need you to make the request a second time so that I can accept it, please.
I don't know how I do that a second time.
Oh, you're there, so it's all good. How can we have a question?
I forgot what the question was now. I do need a bit of clarification over that serving the drinks. I'm sorry, you did confuse me a bit. I've got the opening times. My understanding was from this, if I've got this right, this piece of paper here, that there's no alcohol to be served in the takeaway area, and only alcohol can be served at sitting down diners in the restaurant area. Was that what you were trying to say, or has it changed from that?
With your permission, Chair?
Yes.
You're correct in what you say. The point I was making was about late night refreshment and the hours that have been agreed with the police to restrict late night refreshment in the takeaway section of the premises cannot be enforced on the licence, because late night refreshment is not licensable up to 2300 hours. The sale of alcohol is licensable at all times and is restricted in this application to consumption on the premises in the restaurant area whilst taking a meal sat at a table.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Body. Does anybody else have any questions at all for our licensing officer?
No, Chair, it looks like you haven't got any more questions.
Okay. Does the applicant have any questions for our officer? Yes, Dan. I can see that you've come up as wanting to speak. So.
No questions from me. That's all very clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody from the subcommittee, Gerald, I know you've already asked. Mike, do you have any questions?
No questions.
And neither do I. Thank you very much, Steve. Okay. So, Mr. Simpson, if I can ask now for you to please present your submissions to us.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Got you. So thanks for having us this afternoon. As you know, we're applying for a Chicken George restaurant and takeaway in the town. We are looking to open a takeaway on one side, which will be a walk-in, walk-out takeaway with a delivery service. The restaurant side, we're looking to be a sit-down restaurant. Alcohol's only to be served to people that are sitting at tables having a meal. We won't be accepting anyone to come in just to drink. We don't plan on being a bar or a late-night nightclub. We want to be not quite a fine dining restaurant, but we want to be a nice, high-end restaurant with some nice background music playing as people come and eat and enjoy hopefully some good food and some good drink. So the last thing we want is any sort of trouble. We want to add to the town, and hopefully our reputation from our premises in Luton will prove that we are a respectable, reputable company that can add something to the already brilliant food scene in Hitchin.
Excellent, thank you. That's brilliant, Dan. Do we have any questions at all of fact from the applicant, from any of the objectors?
So is that questions I have?
No, questions to you.
Oh, sorry.
I believe Mr. Weller wishes to speak. If you can remember to introduce yourself as well, please.
Okay, I'm Toby Weller, local resident. Just want to inquire about the delivery service, whether that will be via the front of the premises or the back of the premises.
Yeah, am I able to speak, Chair?
Thank you. Please go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so our delivery will be via delivery from the front of the premises. We don't want people going around the back, because that's obviously where our bins will be, and it won't be very hygienic. So we'll have our delivery drivers coming into the restaurant to collect orders and deliver around Hitchin.
Do you have a feel for where they'll be parking to pick up?
We don't have any say, unfortunately, on delivery. They're all self-employed drivers. Deliveroo don't let us dictate where people can and can't pick up from. At the minute, we have to provide them with a safe collection point, obviously with coronavirus pandemic. So we'll be providing them with a safe collection point. The delivery drivers do sign a contract that states they have to park in a safe place away from any disruption. So yeah, we'll certainly be encouraging our delivery drivers to make sure they don't cause any sort of traffic nuisance outside the premises. But unfortunately, we can't dictate too much to delivery because they are all self-employed drivers. Obviously, if it becomes an issue, we can raise that with delivery, which we'll be keeping an eye on. But yeah, certainly the last thing we need is to cause any sort of issue from our delivery drivers.
That's fine. I mean, I don't want to tie you with the same brush, but we do have people pulling up on the curb. It's yellow lines, etc. But yeah, it's down to you and how you play it.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Mr. Weller. I've also got Mr. Body, who is looking to ask a question as well. Just waiting for you to come up, Mr. Body.
Mr. Body, if you can accept, thank you.
Okay, Stephen Body speaking. Currently, there's no parking out the front, double yellow lines in the taxi rank. I can't see how you've got to function in that environment. I mean, I would like to think you can, but where is the parking proposed for collection and delivery? I know you've had a similar question just a second ago, but...
Yeah, we can't actually have the same questions again and again, I'm afraid. The applicant has answered that question. It was about where you can park outside of the shop.
Right, but I don't know that I had an answer.
Okay. I believe, Mr. Simpson, if you'd like to give an answer.
Yeah, I mean, we know with respect, we can't remove yellow lines. We can't do anything about the parking situation in Hitchin. We'll obviously be encouraging our drivers and customers to park safely. Our shop in Luton doesn't have very good parking out the front, so we just tried the best we can with the premises that we've taken on.
Unfortunately, that's not really an answer, is it? What you're saying is there's no parking out the front. The only parking available out the front is the gateway into my drive. And currently I have the local shops and takeaways parking outside my drive every day. I can only see it getting worse when there's another takeaway. That's my question.
May I just ask, Mr. Body, is there a dropped curb in front of your driveway?
Oh, there is, yeah.
There is. So that's not something that Mr. Simpson can control.
It doesn't. Well, it goes into the driveway. It goes underneath my archway. It doesn't stop people parking there. Is my point.
Okay. Thank you very much. I've also got Kath Cole wishing to speak.
Thank you very much, Kath Cole, local resident. Mr. Simpson, I just wondered, you talked about, great to hear that we're talking about just alcohol being served with a meal. I've sampled your chicken, it is delicious, but I know you can also, just have a piece of chicken or some chips as the like. So I suppose my question to you is, what's the definition of a meal? Because my concern would be that people could come in late at night, just grab a piece of chicken or two, and then sit there having a drink till the early hours.
Yeah, well, firstly, good to hear that you're a fan of our food, so thanks for saying that. We have got no interest in serving people that have left other establishments late. We're going to have a booking system for our tables, so people can book a table and come and sit down. We we just will refuse to serve anyone that comes in intoxicated, because legally we can't serve anyone that's under the influence. We just don't have the interest in giving ourselves that sort of issue. We just want to be a nice, respectable restaurant where people can sit and drink with their meal. We won't be having drinkers just come into the bar. We just want people to be able to enjoy a nice bottle of wine or a nice high quality craft beer with their meal. So yeah, certainly we don't have any interest in accepting anyone that's going to be coming in late after being drinking wherever else. That's not what we want to be as a business.
So I saw mention on your website or Facebook at some point about there being a cocktail bar in the premises, which obviously alludes to a drinking establishment rather than an eating establishment. So can I ask if that's still the plan?
Yeah, I think we sort of said that just to make it sound fancy, if you like. We plan to serve cocktails with the food. After speaking with the police, we made it clear to them that we're just interested in serving alcohol to people that are eating. There will be cocktails available. We don't plan to be a cocktail bar. We want to be a restaurant, but we will be serving cocktails. And that was just perhaps poor wording from our end. We certainly don't want to be a drinking establishment. We're a sit-down restaurant.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, if there aren't any other questions from the objectors, may I ask, do Councillors Rice or Morris have any questions at this point for Mr Simpson?
No, it's all very clear to me. I've got no questions at all. That's Councillor Rice.
Councillor Gerald Morris now, can I speak?
Please do.
Okay. Mr Simpson, you have another establishment in Luton you mentioned.
That's right, yep.
Have you had it for long?
The family, it's not myself, but the family's owned it since 1985.
And is it similar size to what you're proposing?
No, that's much smaller. That's just a walk-in, walk-out takeaway. It's probably about the size of the takeaway side in Hitchin. So this will actually be our first sit-down dining experience. So our current place in Luton is just a walk-in, walk-out takeaway.
On the question of parking, which has been raised a couple of times, just a question really. Looking on Google Street View while I'm sitting here, on the opposite side of the road, there is controlled parking, but there aren't any double yellow lines? Is that right? Or don't you know?
I don't know if maybe the chair can maybe answer that. I'm from Bedford, so I don't know Hitchin that well. So
if Street View is current, then as I say, it's controlled parking, but there is obviously the double yellow lines on your side of the street. On the other side, it doesn't appear to be. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
I can confirm, Councillor Morris, there is controlled parking on the opposite side of the road, just from personal experience. In that case, if we've finished questioning Mr Simpson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, other persons to submit their cases. Is there any other person who wishes to present their submissions to the subcommittee? Yes, Kath Cole has come up first. Liam Jordan also will get to speak in a moment. So, if I can start off with Kath Cole, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's two main points I'd like to raise. Having done some research of late into all the restaurants in Hitchin, of which I've frequented many, the opening hours, although they have been reduced for the restaurant, still seem excessively late. And I have a chart which I'm very happy to share with you all. But I do feel that the hours throughout the week are still late for something purporting to be a restaurant and not a drinking establishment. And so I feel very strongly that those hours should be realigned to the other establishments in the local area in order to, reduce that public nuisance issue that we talked about. I think the second main point I have, although I have many, the second main one, because the chicken is so good, I've heard of queues in the Luton takeaway, which Mr Simpson has just said is of a similar size to the Hitchin side of this premises, of people queuing for up to an hour for this fantastic chicken. And my question is, where are they going to queue? Many of them, no doubt, will have been out in town enjoying our public houses when they reopen. And it does concern me that there'll be an excessive queue of intoxicated people waiting for this brilliant chicken. So I think, although, as I say, I have a number of issues, they are my two main ones about the opening hours being out of alignment with the other restaurants in town and where the queue is going to come from, if there is one, for the takeaway element.
Okay, thank you for keeping that concise. I do appreciate that, and we do get good comments there. I've got Liam Jordan waiting to speak, but I appear to have Mr. Boddy ready next. So if I can ask Mr. Boddy if you'd like to make a comment.
Yes, okay. I've only really got one point, really. I've got no objection in principle to the restaurant. In fact, it would be good to see somebody over there trying to make a go of it, and I wish them every luck, really, because it's not easy times to be doing that in. But my main concern really is the opening hours. As Kath Cole just said, 10:30, 12 o'clock is a reasonable time to me. We currently suffer, and I know it's not up for discussion at this meeting, but we currently suffer and have done for several years now from antisocial behaviour in the area. Particularly bad, the police come out, there are fights, street fights. You probably wouldn't believe me if I told you what sort of fights you get out there. And these all seem to occur after closing time, or what used to be closing time, 11:30, 12 o'clock. My point is that there is already, well recorded, because we've had police involved, we've had councillors involved, it's well recorded. We've had an awful lot of antisocial behaviour after hours. And I believe that allowing this licence to go on till 1 o'clock will just discharge, not more trouble, because it might not be more trouble, but more people into what is already a trouble hotspot. That's my comment.
Sorry, I'm just going over my notes here. We're looking at 1 o'clock in the morning for the restaurant side of things. So I can understand where you are coming from with your worries and concerns. And again, thank you for keeping them concise. May I now ask, does Liam Jordan still wish to make a comment at this point? Yes. Okay. And Toby, what do you want to speak?
Hi, Liam Jordan speaking, local resident. Reading through the application, one of the pieces was that the doors would be only opened for exit and entrance. Currently, the property has bifolding doors at the front of one side. Can I ask if they are going to be removed because they don't sit alongside just opening and exiting a property?
I'm afraid that would have been a question earlier on for Mr. Simpson. Now we have moved past that, and this is about submitting your cases. So you're worried about the doors opening and closing at different times?
Correct.
Okay, we'll make a note of that when we're having a discussion. And if there is an opportunity, I will see if I can come back to that for you. Okay. So is there anything else at all, Mr. Jordan, that you'd like to add to that?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. May I just ask, is there anybody else waiting to speak at the moment?
Mr. Weller.
Mr. Weller, excellent. Okay, could I have Mr. Weller, please?
Hello, Mr. Weller, local resident again. So my concerns, in summary, opening hours have been discussed. They're out of kilter with other restaurants in the area. But there's also an issue which is not necessarily Mr. Simpson's, in that there's 3 takeaways within 15 metres of each other. It's basically an area where people will congregate next to the taxi rank, next to the 3 takeaways. How do you take responsibility for social issues, litter, etc., between those 3 venues?
Again, we have moved past asking questions to Mr. Simpson. This is for yourself to submit your comments and worries about things that are going to be happening.
Okay, let me reverse that then. I have concerns about who will take responsibility for litter, social issues, etc., in and around the 3 restaurants, 3 takeaways.
Okay. So it's more worried about specifically adding to it from the new takeaway, adding to the existing. Are you saying there are existing issues? May I just ask?
There are existing issues. I don't want to be one of those neighbours that picks up on bits of kebab left in the doorway, etc. They're there. We get them regularly every weekend. The issue is there's 3 venues. Each of them will add to that, and there's talk about litter picks, etc. Who does what? How do they break it up? How do they distribute responsibility for that?
Okay, so we should also make sure that we take into account that and any ways that that can be specifically noted for you. Okay, do we have any other questions of fact from other persons? So do you have anything else that you would like to state at the moment, Mr. Simpson?
No, am I able to respond to any of those points? Or
I'm happy for you to respond if you would like, yes.
Yeah, I'll just try and I think I'll go back to Kath. I think it was you first, Kath, wasn't it, about the opening times? I don't know if Kath.
Yeah, she's on mute, but yes, there was a question of opening.
Sorry, yes, it was me.
There's been a few questions there, so I just want to go back to yours. I think it was first. So is it the opening times? Is it?
Yeah, Mrs. Simpson, could I just be clear? Also, Councillor Allen, you talked about the Friday and Saturday nights. I am actually looking at the opening hours throughout the week because they all are, in my opinion, excessive early on in the week as well. So it's not just the late night Friday, Saturday. But yes, sorry, Dan, that was my main question, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we'll be serving in the restaurant side up until 11 o'clock Monday to Wednesday. Obviously, we need everyone out by 11:30. On Thursday, we're applying to serve until midnight, everyone out by 12:30. And then Friday, Saturday will be 11:30 serving and then out by 12. In terms of the litter issue and the other takeaways, we don't see ourselves as a late night 3 o'clock kebab shop. Our takeaway will be shut by 11 o'clock, and then the restaurant, certainly we don't want people walking out with our plates of food on to discard in the street at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to come across as almost arrogant, but we see ourselves as above a standard chicken shop and above a standard kebab shop. We just want nice quality food served with ambient music in the background and people allowed to enjoy a drink. We're certainly not going to be a nightclub. We don't want to cause any litter. I've spoke to Tom Hardy, the manager of Hitchin Bid, about getting a bin for us out the front. If the council won't do that, we will install one at our own cost and put that out the front to ensure the litter is tidied away. We've always had a 5-star hygiene rating in Luton since the rating systems began. So hygiene is our number one priority. And effectively, we can't spend, since 1985 we've been building our reputation. We can't afford to then be associated with drunks and people being sick outside and throwing our food everywhere. It's just not what we're about. We're looking to add to our reputation. We certainly can't afford to damage it by allowing drunks to come in all hours and eat our food and cause a nuisance to the lovely town of Hitchin. We were approached by St Albans and Bedford and Milton Keynes for our wing bar, and Hitchin was always our number one location. We feel we're a perfect fit for Hitchin. We want to add to the community. As the chairman mentioned earlier, we're very keen to help out with charity events, and we give food every week to the NHS, for example. We did a drop at Sue Ryder just the other day in Hitchin, the neurological centre. So we want to add to the community. We don't certainly want to add any problems to anyone, litter, noise. We want to, every single condition that was imposed, we completely agreed on. We want to add somewhere nice for people to come and eat in Hitchin after this horrible time is over. So we certainly don't want to cause anyone any problems.
Thank you, Dan. I think one of the other questions was about the bifold doors at the front.
Yeah, so that's just in the takeaway side. So at the minute they're open because we're working. The restaurant side doors won't be open at all. That's where the background music will be playing. The takeaway side doors does have bifolds. If you feel you need to impose a condition that they can never be open fully, then we'd accept that. But we feel it's nice for people to walk in and walk out of a nice bifold door. It's certainly not going to cause any noise in the takeaway side as people are coming and going. And that just reminds me that the queuing question, I think, Kath, was there a queuing question?
That was right, about from Luton experience. And
yes, it's nice to obviously have queues. So it shows we're doing something right. When we planned the takeaway, we set the counter back as far as we possibly could. So the counter is actually as far back as we can. It literally backs onto where the kitchen is. So we've done that. So majority of the queue will be inside the building. If we need to even have 2 lines inside the building, we will. We'll do our best for the queue not to spill out onto the street, but we can fit. It's a lot longer than our shop in Luton, so we can hopefully fit the majority of our queue inside. That's why we set the counter back as far as we could. And, you know, if you're a local resident, please feel free to pop your head in. The counter's in now, so you can see where the counter is. We've set it as far back as we can, so we can try and get as much of the queue inside as possible. So, hopefully that's enough. You know, we couldn't have done any more to reduce the queue, if I'm honest, because there's nowhere out there. We couldn't go any further back with the counter, if you see what I mean, from the entrance door. So that was our thinking. That was one of our first thoughts, was we didn't want to cause any problem on the street. It's a narrow path as it is, so we don't want to cause any problems there. So we just tried to set the counter as far back as we could, so we can get as many people inside as possible queuing. If we have a queue, we might not take off in Hitchin.
Chair, could I ask a point of clarification on that? Is that all right?
Yes.
So, sorry, Dan, you said Saturday and Friday night, the restaurant was 12:30. Is that right? Did I misunderstand?
Yes, that's when we'll be applying to serve till, and then we'll be closing, so everyone needs to be out by 12:30, 1 o'clock. So we've given ourselves that half an hour. So we've given ourselves half an hour from everyone finishing to everyone's got to be out by. So the opening and closing times when everyone will be off the property and the property shut down and closed, and so we'll be serving until 12:30, Friday, Saturday, and then everyone's got to be out by 1. So we won't be serving up until 1 o'clock.
So I hate to say it, my objection would still stand, because the other restaurants in town are closing earlier than that 1 o'clock. Most of them, nobody else is later than 12. So I'll leave that point there.
I think from our point of view, it wasn't to allow as many drunks in as we can. Our timing was if we had a birthday party that had booked to come in at 9:30, for example, we wanted them to enjoy for as long as they could before we had to kick them out. It wasn't a case of let's let all the drunks in at 1. We want people to be able to sit and relax and enjoy their meal and feel like we don't need to kick them out. Most likely, we probably won't even be having people in till 12:31. That's just the maximum we'll be allowed to open till. So. Yeah, I don't plan on being there till 1 o'clock every night.
Just step in there and say thank you for agreeing to answer those questions, Dan, and thank you for putting them across so well, Kath. Do we have any questions from the subcommittee that they would like to ask the objectors at all?
Councillor Rice?
Hello, Mike.
Going through the representations of the objectors, I noticed from Liam Jordan, he reckons there's a problem with the fire exit at the rear of the property when kept open, caused a noise nuisance for the local residents. Is this something that we can deal with in the scheduler conditions? And would this cause a problem to the operation?
I will need to pass that one over to Steve Cobb.
Thank you, Chair. Yes is the simple answer, Councillor Rice. If you believe there's evidence to suggest that fire exit door requires a condition for it to remain closed after a certain time, or even at all times during operation, then you would be able to do that. I think it may assist you if you was to give Mr Simpson the opportunity to explain how he was going to manage that situation, because in general terms it's an expectation that fire doors are kept closed, because that's the purpose of them being there in the first place.
Through you, Chair, can you ask him?
Yes, I can. Mr Simpson, are you able to confirm with us what your intentions are with the fire exit door at the rear? Just waiting on our technical aspects.
Mr Simpson, are you able to speak? Because we've got you down as a speaker.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I turned my microphone off, sorry. Yes, the fire exits, we plan to keep them shut. I don't see, we'd never plan to open them. And, well, that's where our rubbish is. I don't see why we'd want them doors open. We don't want the customers going out the back. We don't want customers wandering out the back. That's the car park and the bin area. So, yeah, the fire doors will be kept shut.
Thank you for confirming this. Is that okay with you, Mike, or do you have any other questions for Mr Simpson?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morris?
Thank you, Chairman. District Councillor Gerald Morris speaking. The three objectors are concerned about the closing hours of the restaurant in particular. There are obviously a lot of eateries in the area, and obviously we will judge this application on its merits. But I wonder if any of the objectors do happen to know what are the licensed closing hours of the restaurants in the area, and whether this actually is later than those. As I said, we would obviously judge it on its own merit, but I just wonder. Thank you.
Chair, I'm happy to answer that, but I can't raise my hand, I'm afraid. It's Kath Cole.
That's fine, Kath. I'm just going to double check that is acceptable from Steve Cobb from the licensing to make sure that question's acceptable.
Yeah, sure.
To the best of my knowledge, it is. Is that okay, Steve?
You're exactly right, Chair. It is a question that can be answered. I would just obviously caution the weight that you would attach to other premises operating hours because it's different management and different circumstances.
And completely different styles of restaurants. So yes, Kath, if you do have that information, please do share it with us.
Well, I have, being the pedant I am, I have created a spreadsheet. So I have every restaurant in Hitchin with its closing hours, and I'm very happy to share that with the committee.
May I assume that it's quite a long list?
It is a lovely spreadsheet. And I've even given you an average, so you can see per day what the average of all the restaurants in Hitchin are. So I'm very happy to share that. But in brief, during the week, the average is 11 o'clock. On a Friday, it's 11:15. Saturday, 11:30, and a Sunday is 10 o'clock.
May I ask, just because I obviously don't have that information to hand, and I do appreciate the fact that you've done that, may I ask what the latest times are currently in Hitchin?
So, bear with me.
Thank you.
So I'm guessing we're talking Friday, Saturday.
Yes, please.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 21. And I have to say, a number of them are Indian restaurants a bit later. But that might just be me. But I tend to go for curry after a few drinks.
No, that is absolutely brilliant and very useful information. Thank you. Mike, Gerald, anything else you'd like to?
Yeah, Kath, thank you for that. It's very helpful. But are they the licensed hours or when they choose to close, do you know?
They are the closing hours as advertised either on their own website or by doing quite a detailed Google search at the moment, because a lot of them obviously are advertising as closed.
Okay, well, I won't pursue that any further.
So it's the closing time.
On green.
Okay.
I won't pursue that any further. Thank you, Kath.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the information you just gave us there, Kath. Right. I think then we are ready to move on to the closing statements. The licensing officer may make any final submissions to the subcommittee now if you wish.
Thank you, Chair. And this contribution, you'll be pleased to know, will be much shorter than the first one. Just need to pick up on some points and give some advice on things that were raised during the course of the hearing. In no order other than they were how I wrote them down. There was reference to existing ASB in the area, and it was suggested that there are already concerns amongst councillors and police. That comment was redacted from the representation. It isn't relevant to today because we're talking about somebody that's not there and hasn't got the ability to perhaps contribute to that at the moment. However, if you're considering it as part of the wider picture, which you're entitled to do, please be aware that the police who had the opportunity to object to the hours that are being proposed have not done so. In terms of the opening hours of other premises, it's relevant up to a point if you are looking at the cumulative impact on the town as a whole. But again, as I said a few minutes ago, you need to look at this particular applicant, this particular style of business, The whole ethos of the Licensing Act is that there are no fixed closing times, there are staggered closing times, and basically your licence is a reward for how well you can manage your business. And lastly, on picking up on what was raised during the course of the hearing, I fully understand the concerns that were raised about the bifold doors at the front of the takeaway. I would just caution against any condition requiring those bifold doors not to use, and my caution is based on the fact that up to 2300 hours late night refreshment in the takeaway wouldn't be licensable, so you're effectively placing a restriction on something that doesn't need a licence in the first place. In terms of my standard comments, there is a right of appeal against the subcommittee's decision for any party to today's hearing. That appeal will be heard by the local magistrates court, which for this area is based at Stevenage. An appeal stating the grounds on which the decision is being appealed and accompanied by the appropriate court fee must be lodged with the clerk to the magistrates no later than 21 days after receipt of the written decision notice. It is our intention to email the written decision notice to everybody tomorrow. At any stage after the grant of a licence, a responsible authority or another person may request the licensing authority to review the licence if they believe one or more of the licensing objectives are not being met. The review operates very similar to this application process. There is a similar 28-day consultation period when anybody can make comments. A further hearing would be held similar to today, and the subcommittee at that time would have a number of options, starting with taking no action through to amending timings, removing activities, adding conditions, suspending the licence or revoking the licence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Steve. Right, do any of the objectors have a final submission that they would like to make to us? Okay, I've got Mr. Boddy, who's immediately come up, so I shall start with him, please.
Just a quick one, really. The point regarding the sliding bifold doors. I noticed in this report it says that all windows and external doors to the premises shall be closed at all times during regulated entertainment except for egress, or in the case of emergency. How does that relate to the sliding folding doors at the front?
My assumption, although I'll double check that in a moment, is that is for the restaurant side, not the takeaway side. Am I able to get that confirmed?
Doesn't say that.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please, Steve.
That condition relates to during the provision of regulated entertainment. There is no regulated entertainment on the licence. That would be live and recorded music, so discos, bands, that sort of thing. Sale of alcohol and late night refreshment wouldn't have that condition applied to them.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boddy. Yes,
Chair,
Mike.
Wouldn't that be a planning issue as opposed to a licensing issue?
Again, I'm going to pass this on to Steve Cobb for confirmation.
Thank you, Chair. It's one of the anomalies that we have with the licensing and the planning system that when anybody wants to operate a business similar to this, there are two regulatory regimes that apply. There may be planning conditions in place, and it may be difficult even for that bifold door to be removed without planning permission. Unfortunately, we can only consider the licensing objectives in terms of the licensing, and the applicant would have to be mindful to his responsibilities under the planning restrictions as well.
Thank you very much. Mike, I know that you are on planning still, I believe.
Yes, correct, Chair.
Yep, as am I, and I'm afraid, Councillor Morris, I can't remember, but I think you are as well. I haven't seen anything come through, so at the moment we're purely focused on the licensing, so that isn't something I can comment on further.
Yeah, no, all I was saying is a lot of effort's been put into these bifold doors, that I think it's more of a planning issue if it is an issue rather than being a licensing issue.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much for that, Mike. Okay. Mr. Body, is that your final part that you would like to put now for the conclusion?
Well, there was only one other thing in this list of conditions. I'm just running through that, so I don't mean to drag it on any longer.
No, that's fine.
It says the designated smoking area should be located in a suitable place as not to disturb any local restaurants. No drink shall be permitted in this area at any time. Where's the designated smoking area is my question, I suppose. Or is there not going to be one?
I'm afraid that, again, this is the time for statements as opposed to questions. But that is something that we will definitely take into account as we are looking at the licensing side of it, and we will try and find out. Thank you ever so much, Mr. Body.
No, thank you. I'll finish now.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make any closing statements from the objectors?
No. Oh, yeah, Mr. Weller, Chair.
Mr. Weller, yes, please.
Just very quickly, I'd like consideration to be given to the delivery service that's planned from the takeaway restaurant in terms of parking, parking on curbs, parking on double yellow lines, etc., and parking outside our access point, which does have a lowered curb, but it's also our only in and out, and from a fire point of view, needs to be kept clear. It'd be nice if you could put some framework around that when you're doing your considerations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weller. We shall bear in mind your comments. Thank you. Anybody else from the objectors?
No,
Okay.
Chairman?
Beg your pardon, sorry?
Just confirming, Chair, there's nobody else wishing to speak from the objectors.
Okay, thank you very much, objectors. You put your points across very, very well. Now, the other persons may make final submissions to the committee. We've gone through that. The applicant, Mr. Simpson, is there anything else that you would like to put for your final closing statement?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
I just want to say that hopefully we've alleviated some of the concerns of the objectors. I really was keen to get across today just how we are looking to add to the town rather than cause any sort of problem. It's lovely to hear that some people have, tried our food and are fans of our food, and we really are keen on adding to the community and causing no residents or other business any sort of problems. The restaurant side will purely be drinkers who are eating. We don't want to accept anyone that won't be eating with us. We certainly don't want to see any litter out the front. We're going to keep our eye on that with an hourly litter pick and install a bin if we can't get one from the council. And as I say, hopefully I've alleviated some of the concerns that we just want to add to the town rather than cause anyone any problems.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. And again, thank you for giving the information that you have done during the course. Right. Can we ask the legal advisor to summarise any legal points that have arisen during this hearing, and if anyone has any legal questions from our subcommittee?
Sorry, can you hear me? It's Teresa Campion. Basically, I think you've noted with the in regard to the application, the information that's been provided about late refreshment being not licensable under the Licensing Act between 5 a.m. and 23. Sorry, it's not been licensed between 5 a.m. and 2300 hours. So the licensing committee couldn't restrict any hours, couldn't restrict any activity regarding that, whether or not the licence was granted or not. But there are obviously you need to consider the case in its individual merits, and as it's already been outlined, that there may be different hours for different premises. It's not a matter that members should take into consideration because, as I say, it is the idea of the Licensing Act that there isn't a set opening and closing time. You need to consider, obviously, the licensing policy and Section 182 guidance and the evidence you've heard before the committee and there are a number of agreed conditions with the police and environmental protection at Appendix E, and that obviously the amended application is at Appendix E. If the licence is granted or refused, there is a right to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of receipt of the written decision. If the application is granted, there also is that opportunity for a review of the premises licence based on one of the 4 licensing objectives. I'd also point out that if a licence is granted, it is in perpetuity, so it doesn't actually have a lifespan, as it were. But that's the only issues that I would like to raise. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you ever so much, Teresa. I appreciate that. Right. I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny manager to explain the next part of this process, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. The subcommittee will now be retiring to make a decision in private. Public attending the meeting are welcome to wait to listen to the decision. However, this may take some time. Once the subcommittee has made its decision, this will be announced via the link, the live stream. As announced at the beginning of the meeting, if members believe that the decision will take too long to avoid parties waiting, they may decide not to announce the decision live today. If this is the case, an announcement will be made to this effect and the meeting will be closed. The decision would then be announced in writing within 5 working days of the meeting. Back to you, Chair.
Right, before we go into our deliberations, I would like to say thank you on behalf of the members of the panel, the officers, and both the committee and IT for their hard work. We do appreciate how you've managed to put this together in these difficult times. So again, thank you very much for Committee Services and IT for doing this. And thank you also to our objectors and to our applicant. You have used our IT very, very well. And you've also kept everything nice and succinct, so thank you very much.
Okay, can I please ask IT Network and Infrastructure Manager to confirm that the recording has ceased, and asked members who are part of the panel to leave the meeting to undertake your deliberations. and
We'll just wait for Mark for live streaming. Yep, we're recording from my side.
I can't seem to record at this side, so hopefully your two will be fine. Thank you. Chair, if you would like to continue.
Okay, thank you everybody, and welcome back. Councillors Rice, Allen and Morris have had our discussions, and we have come to the following decision. The decision is, this is an application for the new premises licence under Section 17 of the Licensing Act. The subcommittee has read the material presented to it and has listened to all the evidence and submissions. The subcommittee has considered the national guidance and the statement of licensing policy and has come to the following decision. We will grant the application as applied. The licensing activities and timings. The late night refreshments for indoors only. So this is the area marked takeaway operating hours. Late night refreshment is not licensable between the hours of 5 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock at night. Therefore, the proposed operating hours are not licensable and cannot be restricted. The takeaway service will not operate on New Year's Eve. The hour premises that will be open to the public are Monday to Wednesday 12 till 11, Thursday to Saturday 12 till 11:30, Sunday 12 till 10, and all bank holidays 12 till 11:30. December 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th will be between 12 and 11:30. The restaurant operating hours, late night refreshments indoors only, will be bear with me. Thursday 11 till midnight, Friday and Saturday 11 till midnight, all bank holidays 11 until half past midnight. Let me rephrase, go back over that, my apologies. Thursday 11 till midnight, Friday and Saturday 11 until half past midnight, all bank holidays 11 till half past midnight. December 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th, 11 until half past midnight. And New Year's Eve, 11 until 2 o'clock in the morning. This is because before the hours of 11 and between 5 in the morning, the activity is not needed to be licensed. Sale of alcohol, consumption on the premises only. Monday to Wednesday, 12 till 11. Thursday, 12 till midnight. Friday and Saturday, 12 until half past midnight. Sunday, 12 until 11. All bank holidays, 12 until 11:30. December 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th, 12 until half past midnight. And New Year's Eve, 7 until 2 o'clock in the morning. Hours the premises open to the public, Monday to Wednesday, 12 till 11:30, Thursday, 12 until half past midnight, Friday and Saturday, 12 till 1, Sunday, 12 till 11:30, all bank holidays, 12 till 1. The December Christmas periods of the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th, 12 until 1 o'clock. New Year's Eve, 7 o'clock until 2:30. The conditions proposed by the applicant were not amended by the subcommittee. The subcommittee recognises conditions will only be imposed on a licence where conditions are appropriate for the promotion of one of the 4 licensing objectives. The licensing objectives are: we will put on the following condition. Prevention of public nuisance. The condition is that the fire doors in the premises remain closed except for ingress, egress, or in the case of an emergency. The effect of failure to comply with any of the conditions attached to the licence or certificate is a criminal offence which upon conviction could result in an unlimited fine or up to 6 months imprisonment, or both. Right, the statutory guidance considerations. The subcommittee has taken into account the guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, the April 2018 version, in reaching its decision. It's found the following sections to be of particular relevance in reaching this decision. I will let you see those when this is printed out. The rationale for our decision was the subcommittee felt that by virtue of the conditions agreed between the applicant and the responsible authorities, that granting the licence would not undermine the promotion of the licensing objectives. We do not consider the opening hours requested by the applicant to be excessive. We have considered all the evidence, both verbal and written, and whilst we note that residents' concerns regarding car parking being an issue for the area, this cannot be added as a condition to the licence, as it is out of the applicant's control. The subcommittee considers that the applicant placing a bin outside the premises and carrying out an hourly litter pick outside of Chicken George's restaurant to help overcome the concerns of residents about littering. The decision takes immediate effect. The rights of appeal. An appeal may be made against the decision by the applicant, any other person who has made relevant representation in relation to the application. The appeal and appeal fee must be lodged with the clerk of Stevenage Magistrates Court no later than 21 days after the day on which the parties were notified by the licensing authority of this decision. And that is that. We have put that through. I'd just like to say thank you again to Councillors Morris and Rice for sitting on this panel. A big thank you to our IT department and to all of our officers and to our legal advice. I believe that is everything we need to go over now. So I shall call the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Can the IT and infrastructure manager please confirm that the audio recording and live streaming will now cease and everyone can leave the meeting?